everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Warrior Within. I'm your host, Jaime Bennett. I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different today. It's not as sensitive as a topic that I normally cover, but I will still insert the viewer discretion is advised. It's a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I can't guarantee whether or not cuss words will fly out of my mouth. So we're going to put the disclaimer in there just in case. The topic today is going to be about females in the music and broadcasting industry. I have had experience with both. This is just my experience. I can't talk about all the females who have been in the broadcasting or music industry's experience, but I can speak of my experience in those fields. I think the best place to start is probably my experience in the jazz ensemble. When I first joined the jazz ensemble, I was not very well experienced with playing guitar. I had just started playing guitar. I believe I started taking lessons when I was like 20. And when I went off to Quincy University, I was like 20 going on 21. So I hadn't been taking music lessons, guitar lessons for very long. But I didn't want to lose, the training. I didn't want to lose all of the hard work that I had put into learning playing the guitar. So what I did is I called up the jazz instructor in residence at Quincy University, which is where I went to university at. And I told him that I wasn't very experienced, and I've told this story a few times, but we're going to tell the full story this time. I told him I wasn't very experienced with reading music yet. I wasn't very experienced with keeping the rhythm yet. I was a newbie in the guitar playing world. But the jazz ensemble was the only band or ensemble that they had at Quincy University that a guitar would work with. There was no other place for me. So I told him, I said, I don't know very much. I can read very little music. I am new at this, but I would like to keep in practice, and I would like to join your jazz ensemble if you'll have me. And he said that what he'll do is he'll let me sit in a few of the practices and, go from there. If I worked out in the practices and if it seemed like a good fit, then he would let me, play a few songs in the first concert. So I played like 2 songs in the first concert, and I did well with that. And then from there, he let me play in more concerts, and he let me have solos in these concerts. So I went from this shy, didn't know how to play guitar, to this person who was a featured solo guitarist in the jazz concerts. That was a huge deal for me. Huge deal. I didn't think that I would ever get to that position because, a lot of times female guitarists do not get taken very seriously. It's really sad. I mean, there are a lot of female guitarists out there that are extremely talented, but we don't get recognized or noticed as much as male guitarists. And that's a really sad, unfortunate truth in a lot of cases. Luckily for me, my jazz instructor was really, really awesome. He put a lot of time and effort into me. He would stay after class and teach me how to read music, and he would give me lessons so that I could get further in the jazz ensemble and further in my guitar playing career. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Because of him, I ended up being in the music pit for the musical Godspell for Quincy University, and that was pretty awesome. it was just me and one other guitarist, and they said that I did a really incredible job. And that's a good feeling. That is a really, really good feeling, especially being a female guitarist. Like I said, we don't get recognized as much. We don't get noticed as much. And, that was a really, really good feeling. I was lucky in the sense with my jazz ensemble that, they accepted me as part of the jazz ensemble family. I didn't have any issues with, smart remarks. I didn't have anybody put me down. I didn't have any of those issues because, I wasn't the only female in the jazz ensemble. There were other females in the ensemble, but I was the only guitarist and I was the only female in the rhythm section. All the rest of them, the piano player, the drummer, they were all males, but they treated me like family. So I'm thankful that I had that experience in the jazz ensemble. Moving from the jazz ensemble onto the radio station that I worked for while I was a student at Quincy University. It was an NPR radio station, and I started out as an intern. And what my job was to do was to sit during the opera shift and make sure we didn't have dead air or whatever. I just basically had to sit there and listen to opera for 2 hours. And somebody was sitting there with me because I was new at the radio station, didn't know how to operate any of the satellite channels, didn't know how to do any of that. So this person happened to be in the jazz ensemble with me. And so I had somebody to help me in that department. I went from that to having my own radio show, which was called The Jam Session. It would run for 2 hours at night. And I would mostly play Weezer and different bands. And I would give you a little brief history about them. But unfortunately, we had this isn't the unfortunate part, but we had a female radio station manager. And while she was there, I was getting treated very, very well. One of my friends was a boss there. He graduated from Quincy University and ended up becoming a boss at the radio station because he received the same degree that I was going for. And so while he was there and while she was the station manager, while we had a female station manager, everything was fine. I got to do an interview with Terry Gross. I got to do an interview with Gavin DeGraw. I got to have my radio show. There were no problems. Everything was going smoothly, and I was getting to live my dream in the radio industry. Unfortunately, there was a male coworker there, one of my bosses, that when the female station manager left, she ended up moving on in life and moving out of state. So we ended up getting a male station manager. He was not very approachable. He wasn't, as friendly as she was. Not that I'm putting him down or anything. He didn't really seem very approachable. I couldn't really talk to him about anything, and I wasn't comfortable talking to him about anything. It was supposed to be an open door. We were supposed to be able to talk to him about any issues that we were having. The door was always shut. He was hardly ever there, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him about anything. One of the radio station bosses, who happened to be a male, after the female station manager left, started causing me problems. I had gotten media content written about me in a huge newspaper back home for me working at this radio station. So, that was a big deal that my name was in the paper for being a member of this radio station and for having a show at this radio station. I was getting paid because I did have a show. I went from intern to actually getting paid. And then as soon as like the female manager left, this other manager didn't talk to me. And then I started having problems with one of my male coworkers who was my boss. And he said that, you need practice. You're not very good. You need to just do a free internship here and get better. But I think we're going to let you go from the paid position. And, that happened right after the female manager left. So he said that, and I had gotten my name in the huge newspaper back home, and I had quite a few teachers at the university who said that they had listened to my show, that they really enjoyed it, that I had a great radio voice, that they really enjoyed, having me on air, and they just enjoyed listening to the music that I would play. And they asked what happened to me, and they just didn't think here and what happened to me. I was not the only female that was let go from the radio station. There was me and one other female intern that was getting paid at the radio station. Go. It's like he was trying to get rid of all the females at the radio station, and that's very, very frustrating because, we have kind of a hard way to go. Like, our voice is not heard as loudly as a male radio host or a male that's working in the broadcast industry. I know from speaking to Terry Gross, she gave me a lot of great advice. She said that, start off at a radio station, be passionate about it, put your best foot forward and make it to where you are heard. And I have nothing but respect for Terry Gross. She is an amazing human being, and I admire her so much. And I'm very thankful that I got to have an interview with her in my lifetime. Unfortunately, this boss ended up getting rid of me and the other female intern, and he did it in a way that was pretty sneaky. He waited until the female station manager had left. He waited until my friend who worked at the radio station was leaving and moving on to a different job in Chicago. And my friend said, I didn't know that they were going to do that to you, Jamie. I wish there was something that I could have done, but he did it after I was out the door. So he got rid of me after my friend was out the door, and my friend couldn't have said anything about it. And what was worse is I had the interview with Gavin DeGraw recorded, and it was in the radio station's computer. That's where it was housed, and it had my name on it. It said Jamie McKinney's interview with Gavin DeGraw, and he had seen it, and he completely deleted it from the system so that I couldn't get my hands on it. And my friend who had worked there had made a copy of it for me to use for my senior class portfolio, which I really needed it for that. So he made a copy for me, left it in his mailbox, and said that I could go and get it from his station mailbox. And when I went there, it was completely gone. I didn't get any respect after the female station manager left. It was a very hard industry to work in. You had to really, really work at it. You had to really, really make your voice heard in that industry. That's not my only experience that I've had with the radio station industry. I worked for a summer for not very long because I ended up getting in a car wreck, but I worked as a free intern. I didn't get paid at a radio station back home. It was a rock radio station. I don't think it exists any longer, but I was a free intern there, and they didn't really respect me there. They gave me all of the, the intern jobs that no one else wanted to do. And like, I was supposed to be able to drive the radio station van, and he would send me off on these terrible, terrible errands that were almost impossible. And I had to drive my own vehicle, use my own gas money, and I didn't get paid. Like, this job was 30 minutes from home. I was using my own car, my own gas money. I had to pay for lunch or bring my lunch. I wasn't really getting anything out of this deal other than credit hours. I ended up getting in a wreck on one of these errands, and I told him, I said, I quit. I'm no longer doing this job because I just wrecked my car and I'm not getting paid. And he's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And that's pretty much all he said. He's like, well, I'll just give you your full credit hours. I'm like, yeah, that's the least you can do, I guess. Working in the radio industry is very, very, very difficult. Especially as a female, because like I said, more often than not, the males are heard more loudly than the females are. I don't know if it's true for every female. I know that there are female DJs out there that are pretty popular and well heard of, but it is very hard to work in this industry. It's hard to make your way to the top, especially as a female. And I'm definitely not a man basher or anything, but it is extremely hard to make it as a female. Another example is I worked for a broadcasting industry. I worked for a television station, and I believe this is the worst experience that I have in the broadcast industry, and which really means, how hard it is for us to be heard, to be noticed, to get anywhere in the broadcasting industry. I started at this television station, not as an intern. They actually hired me in because I had already had my degree, and it was my dream to work at this television station because I'd watched this television channel for many, many years, and I was excited because they did have music videos on there, and they did have, a lot of the things that I watched that I respected and appreciated. And so I was extremely excited to be able to work for this television station. And so they hired me in. I was working there for probably about a month or two before I found out that I was pregnant with my son, Ronan. And I was scared to tell them, but I ended up telling them, hey, I'm pregnant, just a heads up. And everything was okay at first, but then, then I started having morning sickness left and right. And they started off, my one boss started off saying, you have to do what's healthy for you and the baby. So if you need to miss a couple of days, that's fine. We understand you're having morning sickness. I couldn't even stay in the cold room because of the morning sickness. Like, I was having a really, really difficult time even staying in the room to do my job. I couldn't hold anything down. It was pretty awful. So they were okay in the beginning. And then my boss, my direct boss, who was the engineer, because I worked in the master control operation room, where we had to make sure that everything was still on air, that, the logos were getting put up on the screen when they were supposed to, because we had paid sponsors. All that jazz. So he was okay with me at first, and then the morning sickness started becoming a problem. And I told him, I said, I totally understand. You guys have a business to run. You have a business to operate. And he told me, he's like, no, it's fine. So like, when everything horrible happened with Ronan and he passed away, they gave me maternity leave and they were really great with that. But then when I came back, I was working for a few more months and they had to start over with my training because, I was just in the beginning of my training and didn't know a whole lot about the or the television station operations. Like I didn't know a whole lot about that yet because, you had to set satellite channels, you had to edit things, like you had to throw logos up, you had to do FCC guidelines, you had to do tests. Like there was a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes that had to be accomplished during my hours there, and it was a lot. Like it was a lot to do in an 8-hour shift. So like the first go around they were okay with me, and then like I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter Willow a few months later, and the morning sickness started happening again, but not as bad, luckily. But they were having me climb ladders while being pregnant. They were having me push heavy shelving, like metal shelving that has to have a crank, but the crank was broken, so we had to push it. They were expecting me to push heavy shelving while I was pregnant. The power had went out because we had an inland hurricane that happened while I worked at that station. All the electricity was out. There was no running water. There was no electricity for me to heat my food. And one of my coworkers even spoke up and said, she's pregnant. I don't think that she needs to be here, especially with no electricity. There's not like anything's going on. And I was staying with my mom and dad at the time, so I would have access to running water and electricity because I was pregnant. And that was about an hour from the television station. So I had to drive an hour to get to work. And then there would be no power, no running water. I was pregnant, and, my boss was like, that's fine. She can come anyways. Like, it doesn't matter that the power's off, blah, blah, blah. Like, total disrespect for, me, and total disrespect for the baby that I was carrying, and disrespect for my situation. My coworker tried to stand up for me and say, hey, she doesn't need to be here. And even one of the other coworkers that was a boss there even said, hey, I don't think she needs to be here. She's pregnant. It doesn't make sense for her to be in a building where the television station's not even operational right now. We're not on the air because we've had an inland hurricane. But so yeah, this person completely disrespected me, didn't treat me right. My voice was not heard. When I complained about it, he basically told the personnel manager, the human resource manager, the human resource department, whatever you want to call it, he told her that I needed to speak to her, and he told me that she wanted to speak to me. So he basically lied and had me go up there. He set a trap for me to go up there and talk to her. And she says, yeah, you only have 1 week of maternity leave left. You can take it and you can think about whether or not you want to still work here. And so I took my maternity leave, and I basically told them that, if I'm going to be treated that way, especially, since everything I've been through, then I don't have any business working at the television station. And I'm just going to take my leave and take it as a sign that I didn't need to be working there. I was told to bring my baby by so that they could see her. And like the owners of the television station was awesome. It was just my direct boss that hoodooed me, I guess you would say, and didn't treat me right. But He's seen me in the grocery store after that whole situation, after I quit, after I decided that I didn't need to be working there because my voice was not going to be heard. It was going to be extra hard for me to make it in that industry. So he seen me in the grocery store and his eyes got real big. He ducked and he took off in the other direction. Like I said, it's extremely hard to be a female working in the television broadcasting station as well as in the music industry because, we have to work extra hard and we have to take extra steps to be heard. We have to take extra steps to be noticed. We have to bang our drum a little bit louder than men have to. And I really, really, really hope that, that is changed, that we can progress into a better future for that, because I know that I want my daughter's voice to be heard if she decides to go into the broadcasting industry or music industry. I hope that they say, hey, she's got a point. She's smart. We need to listen to her because, females can do just as much as men can do. Like, we're capable of doing things too. We are capable of speaking our mind. We are capable of coming up with really great ideas, and we can work in the same industries as men can and make a go of it. So, it just because we're female does not mean that we can't be heard, that we can't accomplish things. And, my experience at the radio station with that boss was awful, but it didn't crush me. It just more power to me. It made me, strive harder to be heard, to be seen. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep teaching my daughter that. I'm going to keep saying, hey, you deserve to be heard. You deserve to be recognized. You deserve to be seen because, we can do anything that we put our minds to it. We just have to set our foot down and drive forward. We have to be like a bulldozer and, go get it. Like, just because we're female does not mean we can't accomplish something. And like I said, I'm not man bashing. A lot of my really good friends are men, but it is harder for females to make it in the broadcasting industry. It's harder for us to make it in the music industry. 9 chances out of 10, if it is a man or male news reporter versus a female news reporter, they're going to be paying attention to his words more than hers because she's just going to be noticed for like the way her hair looks or her makeup or what she's wearing. She's just going to be noticed for how beautiful she is, and people aren't going to be paying attention to the words coming out of her mouth. And that is a really, really sad state of affairs. I really hope that changes. I that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that, females can be heard louder from now on out. I know that there is a show that just came out on Tardon Media Network called Orchid Times, and it's with Lily Mae and Linda Rose. I'm going to shamelessly plug their show because I think that those young women are doing an amazing job at their voices being heard and helping other young women's voices be heard, because, our voices do need to be heard, and the next generation's voices need to be heard. We need to be taken seriously. We need to, have people recognize us, have people notice us, and realize that, we have important things to talk about too. My daughter, Willow, we have our own little production studio that we do for fun. It's called Starbird Studios. I'll shamelessly plug that. But my daughter, who's 11 years old, she's a powerhouse. She likes to paint. She likes to sing. She likes to play ukulele. She has a show called Mellow Out on our little Starbird Studios page. So, like, you know, we need to encourage the next generation to stand up for what they believe in, to speak their mind, to have their words and voices be heard. And I hope that what you all have gained from today's broadcast is that just because, you know, they're female, or just because they're a young female, like 11 years old, like my daughter, doesn't mean that, you know, they don't have anything important to say. You need to listen to what they have to say. You need to let their voices be heard. And, you know, I hope that you all have gained that from today's broadcast. I really appreciate you all watching. And as always, love, hugs, and blessings.